Hi there, my name is Nina Goradia. Today I'd like to talk with you about an exciting topic about how your personal awakening can help the collective consciousness of this planet and help other people awaken as well, just by turning inward and doing your own personal work. I've got many different avenues that I want to share with you, different pieces of evidence. Some of them are very much analyzed and peer-reviewed studies, and some take a little bit more of a leap of faith. So I'm going to share with you several of these, and I'd love to know what you think. So there is a phenomenon called the Maharishi effect. In 1960, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi predicted that 1% of a population practicing the TM or Transcendental Meditation technique would produce measurable improvements in the quality of life for the whole population. So they actually studied this in the 1970s and in the 1980s, and they found this to be true, that the square root of 1% of a population could significantly lower crime throughout the population just by meditating, not by interacting with people who were committing crimes. And so in the 1970s and 1980s, there were then 9 peer-reviewed articles comprising 14 studies which supported this hypothesized effect. And so what is really interesting here is that they did these group meditation studies, not only through this organization, but all over the world. And they did it, no matter what the time, the day, Saturday morning, 3 a.m., Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. And whenever they did it with enough of a population, that was a square root of 1% of that population, they had a 25% on average reduction in crime that was confirmed by the police statistics. Like, they would go to the police stations and say, show us your statistics and we'll reduce these by 25%, no matter, the economic trends. Like, even in 2007 to 2010, there was a recession and they did not have the increase in crimes that previous recessions had because they were practicing and they were such a large percentage. So I hope this is some inspiration that what you're doing at home on your own is actually contributing to the collective consciousness. And those people who were maybe about to commit crimes that day, something changed within them, something that no longer made them feel like they wanted to do that. And that is the power of the collective consciousness. There are many other ways to think of this. Many of you have heard of David Hawkins. He is a spiritual teacher, and I have one of my favorite books of his right here. And he has actually used applied kinesiology to measure the different levels of consciousness. And he has a beautiful graphic on this. I'll see if I can link that in the description box below. But and I'll probably do future videos on this because it's very interesting how it interplays with emotions and the level of awareness and vibration that occurs with them. But he has mentioned, based on this inquiry, he used applied kinesiology to ascertain different, aspects of this information. And he found that if a person is enlightened, so they have at least a 700 level out of 1,000, 700 to 1,000 is enlightenment in his scale from 0 to 1,000. So if they're at a 700, they can balance out 700 million people who are at a level of 200 or lower. And 200 is the level of courage, and below that are lower vibrational emotions, fear and anger and shame and all of these. So it's incredible because this is exponential. It's a logarithmic scale. So when you are waking up, you're not just linearly balancing, the numbers of people below. You're exponentially balancing. So you can balance 700 million people and collectively increase the vibrational frequency of the planet. So it's really so important. And even if you don't believe in this and it doesn't make sense, or you will benefit from waking up, and that's enough. And of course, you'll make more practical decisions that are beneficial for you in your life and that will influence the people around you. You can also think of this in a very practical way. But there are many many factual stories about people who have invented similar or the same invention on opposite sides of the planet. And they did this at the same time or within a few days apart of each other. And that actually supports this idea of collective consciousness. Like, these ideas were just kind of in the field and people were picking up on them. And I'm going to share a few of these here. So the microchip was invented twice within a year. There are 2 people who independently invented this. And there's also Prokop Divis and Benjamin Franklin both discovered the identity of electricity and invented the lightning rod only 5 years apart. Takaki Kaita, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, in Japan, and Arthur B. McDonald in Canada independently proved that neutrinos have mass, and they shared the 2015 Nobel Prize in physics. In 1902, Leon Tiercerence de Bort from France and Richard Assmann from Germany discovered the stratosphere just 3 days apart from each other. 2 people from different countries developed the automated teller machine separately. Oxygen was discovered by 2 people in a span of 2 years. In 1772, Carl Wilhelm Scheele was the first person to isolate oxygen, and then there was another. So these stories go on, and this proves some evidence for this theory of collective consciousness. So in a previous video, I'll link that here, I talk about one of my favorite books, Your Soul's Clan, in which Robert Schwartz speaks to mediums about people's pre-birth plans. And there's some really interesting information to support this if you're open to the idea of gathering information in this way. There is a spirit guide of one of the people he's inquiring about with the medium, Cassandra, and she has this to say about the energetic pathway. When a specific life challenge is accepted, one can receive healing energy from those who've blazed a trail. The path of light is paved with compassion and healing love that raises the frequency of the person traveling the road behind them. Learning and healing from a specific life challenge raises the auric field of the one who has survived a challenge. Others in their presence know they have something that bathes them in hope and faith. The experience need not be the same, just the healing frequency can carry the soul forward, but the receiving soul must be prepared to receive. Even if the physical form of the receiver does not change or heal by Earth's standards, the soul moves to new heights. So what this is talking about is that your healing, again, serves as this torch, lighting the pathway for others' healing. It's just another motivation for when I do the healing work, not only will I benefit, but the people around me benefit, and even the collective consciousness benefits in this way. Finally, the last story I'll tell you, this one is actually very controversial. Many people feel this has been disproven or debunked, but I think it's just a really interesting story, and you can kind of do the research for yourself and see what you think. But there's something called the 100th monkey effect. And supposedly this is because on an island, there was a study conducted in which they taught monkeys to wash sweet potatoes, wash the sand off of sweet potato before eating them. And by the time the 100th monkey on this island had learned this, then all the monkeys on the island suddenly knew to do this, including monkeys on another island. And then there is some controversy that possibly one of those monkeys did travel to that other island, and that's how they know. But this effect, whether the study is true or not, the effect is often talked about, and you can kind of understand what it means is that as we wake up, the ones around us are influenced as well. The collective consciousness as a whole is influenced. So I think that is the weakest supporting argument I have out of all of the others, but I feel like the Maharishi effect is very strongly supported by so many peer-reviewed studies and experiential evidence and police statistics that they have documented. And then the inventions around the world, I think, is pretty strongly, a strong support. And then the other stuff that takes a little bit of a leap of faith is, can you use applied kinesiology, like how David Hawkins used to determine that your awakening balances 700 million people and the frequency of that? And if you can use mediums, as Robert Schwartz has, to determine that your healing actually paves the way for the healing of others. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you have heard some things that support this evidence for the collective consciousness existing. Oh, I've just thought of one. There's also that 80% of people are afraid of snakes, and that is deeply embedded in our collective consciousness, because that was like one of our #1 predators from all of human history. So that's deeply embedded, even though we're in a civilization now where we don't see them very often, in society. So feel free to share your ideas. And I'd love to hear if there's some that I haven't thought of yet. Okay, hope you have a great day and hope you're inspired to do your work, to wake up, to help the whole world. Okay, take care.